Hello everyone and welcome back to Armatage Candle Company, the premier online resource for accelerating your candle making technique and business. My name is Kevin, and in today's episode we're going to do what we do and make a candle. We're going to use IGI 6006 wax, which will be one of my first times doing it in a container this big, so this should be fun for everybody to watch. Maybe we'll even learn a thing or two, so let's hop in. The first thing I want to do with the candle of this size is take off the lid and inspect the candle for debris or dust. Eventually I'll wipe this out, but I just want to make sure we have a good starting point. Then I'm going to measure the diameter to determine what kind of wick design we're going to have. We have a total diameter of 3 3/4 inches. Then I'm going to fill the candle with water because I want a water weight to convert into a wax weight. It's a total water weight of 495 grams. And now that my jar is all good and wet, I'm going to dry it out because wax does not play well with water, and it's good to have that difference. Using a fragrance load of 7%, we end up with a total weight of 426 grams, which is 398 grams of wax and 28 grams of fragrance. We're going to use Forever Romance from Lone Star. If you're curious about how to do that math, you can click on the video on the top right, or you can check out the links below. IGI 6006 is a soy paraffin blend, which means you get to offset all the horrible properties of soy like bumpy tops and frosting with a little bit of the strengths of paraffin, which is much more inert and a lot more stable. We're going to measure 398 grams from this 10-pound block, which it ships in, to put into our pour pot. I will leave this on the heat until it reaches a nice melted blend weight of 185 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Take off my gloves like a surgeon, which I thought would look a lot cooler when I did it, but it kind of didn't. Clean up any unruly messes that your wax may have left in your midst. And while we're waiting for wax to melt down, we'll measure out 28 grams of this fragrance that kind of smells like old people, but in that good, friendly way that makes you happy. I kind of like to YOLO my fragrance measurements, but a lot of people will use a pipette or something a lot more controlled than this because I ended up going back and forth between the container and the glass about 6 times. Double checking our measurement at a 3 3/4 inch diameter, doing a cool wick trick. It's time to design our wicks. With 6006, the recommendation for a container of this diameter is a single Eco 10 wick, but I'm going to use 2 Eco 2 wicks in their midst because I'm out of Eco 10s, and I figured it would be a good opportunity to try out the double wick. I'm using a metal straw to connect the wicks to the bottom of the container, and I'm just eyeballing it. In Minnesota, we call this the Minnesota Eye. It's not perfect, but if I was selling these candles, that would be another story. It would always be perfect. I normally use clothespins to hold the wicks in place while I pour the wax, but because the diameter was so large, the clothespins didn't stretch, so I opted to roll it around a skewer and put tension in the wicks. And this is a little trickier than it looks, but it's not impossible to pull off. You just need a little bit of patience. I saw that the wicks slid around, but I got it eventually. We'll take our wax off the heat now, and giving it one final check of the temperature gives us a beautiful 185 degrees, which is exactly where we want to add our fragrance oil. Switching to my good pouring hand before any bad things happen, we make sure to stir this in at 185 to ensure that the solid matrix of the wax can close up around the fragrance oil at the highest temperature. Wax expands when it heats up, so we've opened up the entire matrix of that wax, and as it cools, it's going to solidify it and shrink in size, so it will actually hold and trap all that fragrance oil molecules within its own matrix. And this is why curing is so important, and why I've spent so much time talking about it in different videos like this one. We'll stir for 2 minutes to ensure we get a complete blend profile. And now for the boomerang-worthy aspect of candle making, we'll pour into our container not too fast and not too slow, and if we did our math right, we'll see that we used exactly all of the materials we put into that candle. To keep my 2 wicks relatively centered, I put some clothespins around the skewer, which wanted to float a little bit of a MacGyver solution, but do what works best for your process. To stop the bottom from getting insanely hard a lot faster than the rest of the candle, I tap the air out and put the candle on a neutral surface and let sit for roughly 5 hours. When the candle is substantially hardened, I remove all of my MacGyvered solutions and I trim the wick to roughly a 1/4 inch so that it's ready for my safety testing in roughly 5 to 7 days. If you're a beginner looking to bootstrap your candle making skills to take your hobby to the next level or start a candle making business, Check out the link in the description below for my online course, which just launched. It's comprehensive and got everything. Otherwise, I hope you have a great week. I hope you make beautiful candles, and I will see you in the next episode.